That was the first one he was showing.
I got to interrupt because, you and I both lost a parent this last year, and the same funeral home took care of both of my folks, and they're 13 years apart, and it was the same guy, and we just love this guy. I mean, I'm so thankful for this guy being a mortician. And at one point I told him, because we're actually laughing on the phone together, I'm like, I got to tell you, I mean, in a weird way, you're making this process enjoyable. And he goes, I do put the fun in funerals.
Oh my God. Oh, now there's a billboard.
Yeah.
Right. Let's put the fun in funerals.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop.
Small Business Safari, back in action, back going out there. We are making it happen in the wild world of starting your own business or trying to get that fricker scaled up. And
Did you say fricker?
I did.
What are you, like a junior high Midwest?
PG-13.
I was trying to be PG-13 for our guest because he doesn't. No, he does swear like a fucking sailor.
He's got a big glug of bourbon in front of him.
And he's back. He's back. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have somebody who I've known for quite a while, and I'm excited to have him on. He's like, I don't know what this podcast thing is, but okay, if you think it's a good deal. I said, look, come on over. We'll do it in my basement. I got a lot of bourbon. I know you like bourbon. He goes, bourbon? Okay.
Yeah, we were done at that point.
Yeah, I had him at bourbon.
Was this the guy that you were talking about? He was going to get an Uber.
He was going to Uber over just so he can get on this podcast and spin nuggets and get hammered with us.
Say, hey,
and then guess what happened? He had to get his knee operated on, and he's like, I can't Uber. I got to drive back and forth. I got to keep myself kind of in line. I'm like, well, that's no fun. But, ladies and gentlemen.
Before you introduce him.
Yeah.
You bought me a present.
I did. You want to talk about it for a minute?
I do. I'm so excited.
All right, let's talk about it.
Okay.
All right. So, and I'm going to make a ton of videos out of this. Sean Gervais was on our podcast a couple episodes ago, and he has labeled himself a venture capitalist. And after listening to him, I would say, yes, he is truly a serial entrepreneur. That is truly a serial entrepreneur. When he got done talking about all his businesses, I just finally said, you know what? You're like that super duper pooper reindeer guy who just poops out businesses in fact, wait a minute. Wait. Oh, I think you just started another business, Sean. Oh my God, we're on the podcast. You just started another one. And he goes, I remember those now. And goes, I've never heard of those. And so I said, oh, you've never heard of super duper reindeer poopers? I said, we used to have these at Christmas.
It must be a northern thing.
So I have the super duper reindeer jelly bean.
Have you seen these things?
I have not.
Yeah.
These are super duper.
It's a little toy that
reindeer
poops out reindeer jelly beans or something.
Outstanding.
Yeah. So Chris bought me one.
I did. So gift for Alan. Little memento.
I will cherish it forever.
Sean said he could not buy one, so I was going to buy one for him. And then I found out that it's 4 times the cost for me to buy it and ship it to him in Canada. It's like, but I'm going to end up buying one. I'll get one to him eventually. So, but we don't have the super duper reindeer pooper with us today, but we do have the super duper scooper pooper because he's with College Hunks hauling junk.
Yeah.
How about that? That's a mouthful, but it's really not because they call themselves hunks. We have one of my good friends, Roger Panitch, coming in studio. Welcome, Roger.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And today we are drinking a really cool bourbon. Roger's going to do Oak and Barrel Eden. Oak. Did I say that right? Eden Oak.
I don't know. I'm not looking at the label.
All right, but he brought us one called Barrel Seagrass, the whiskey finished in Martinique rum, Madeira, and apricot brandy barrels. Can't say that, and haven't even been drinking.
I know. I've just got 4 roses. You give me the B team.
Actually, Roger has a phrase for that. When you bring 4 roses in,
it's called maintenance bourbon. So after you've had a couple of really good ones,
yeah,
you don't need to waste your nice stash on some of your high end bourbons.
Yeah,
because you're not going to notice the difference anyway at that point. But you don't want to be done drinking, so you need a maintenance bourbon.
I need to do that on the golf course.
Well, I think you've already picked up one great gold nugget from this entire podcast. If you haven't picked up one thing, always have a maintenance bourbon, and always have. I'm going to add one to that. always have a low-cost cab for your friends who come over who don't really understand what great wine is.
And you're looking at me when you say that?
I am, and I'm looking at you, and that's why I have Josh sitting up there at $12 a bottle for you. But the maintenance bourbon.
That's twice as much as I've ever spent on a bottle of wine.
Actually, yep, that's good. And we're going to keep going from that. All right, who is Roger? Well, I mentioned that Roger now owns a local company. It's a franchise here in Atlanta, and it's called College Hunks Hauling Junk. But before that,
And College Hunks Moving.
and College Hunks Moving, just a lot. So I just have to always go hunks. But before that, he bought into this franchise system and did this. He actually had a very good and long run in corporate America, good sales career, moving around. He's originally from Philadelphia. His last job, I actually have not. I lost the bio, but I'm going to ask him. Roger, what was the last job before you left and did this?
I spent a really short stint doing some credit card processing sales, which was about 3 months. Somewhat sold a bill of goods, but take a lot of ownership because I didn't do my due diligence.
But you had a big, long career in restaurants and medical.
Yeah,
sales,
I went to school for restaurant and hotel management and was in the restaurant business for about 8 years, and then was in the pharmaceutical industry. I was selling drugs, the legal kind.
Nice.
For about 8 years as well, and downsized with 10,000 of my closest friends.
So you were spit out of the corporate world. It's interesting how entrepreneurs are born, kind of like this reindeer pooper. And in your case, you were pooped out of the corporate world.
I was.
Yeah.
But I was pooped out early on. The industry has changed so much. That industry has changed so much. I was lucky with my severance package because they kept getting a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less. So I got out, I guess, at the right time, if you would.
So I've known Roger, I don't know, 6-7 years now.
At least.
So I didn't realize he had started out in hospitality because I knew him as the drug rep, the drug seller. And then, so he's peddling drugs. I'm thinking always in my head, Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And he was
got a trunk full of samples, I'm sure.
He's like, no, bro. I was pharma. I was big pharma. I was way above that. He said, then, and I forgot about the credit card thing. So obviously you were forced into this. Oh, now what? And you decided not to stay in corporate America, but to kind of pursue the entrepreneurial vision. Is that something you had always wanted to do? Is that something you're like, hey, I got this chance, let's do it?
It was more the latter and some of the circumstances of it. I mean, I spent, after getting downsized from Pfizer, I spent about 2.5 years being an executive recruiter. And if you could pick a window, December of 2007 to March of 2009, probably not the best time to be an executive recruiter. Job market was not wonderful.
Really? Did something go on then?
So I started becoming a miserable person. Just I didn't like what I was doing, and it was bleeding into my personal life, which I realized I needed to make a change. So I clicked on one of those links. Have you ever thought about owning your own business? And little did I know.
So those work.
Little did I know that the phone was going to ring off the hook with that.
So, yeah, it's funny you say that because I did one thing where I said I'm interested in a franchise opportunity. And I was just thinking about the Mr. Handyman one. And like you said, the phone rang off the hook. And this is before you could block people too. And I'm sitting in the bank, still thinking about whether or not I'm going to leave or not. I'm just getting blown up. But you did that. But this is like that, maybe like that TOAM when you're watching the telemarketer. Are you feeling down? Yes. Are you feeling lonely? Yes. Are you feeling like you want to give me $5 million? You had me there. It's a run, white skip, but you did. You went click. And then what?
I started the process, and it's a more intense process.
Did you meet with a franchise broker that put you on their couch and they ask you all the questions and then they present 3 to you and 2 of them suck and then this one was good? I mean, is that kind of how
that is somewhat how it went? Okay. It wasn't on their couch because it was over the phone and they were in Colorado at the time. But that's pretty much how, and I guess I probably clicked on more than one of those. Have you ever thought about owning your own business? Because one of the fun ones that I met with was a sign person. And when I met with that person here locally, one of the conversations we had, I said, well, what are we going to do in the future as things continue to evolve? Well, you'll always need X, Y, and Z. I said, well, if in the 1980s, I would have told you that every single person would have a color printer in their home. You would have called me crazy. But everybody has a color printer in their home. Things are going to change. Well, not in the sign business, they're not. And I went, okay. And I realized that that was not the right business for me, because I just didn't feel that they had the forward insight into that aspect. So the first recruiter I met with put 3 companies in front of me, 3 different genres, and none of them were perfect. The one that was most intriguing was non-medical in-home senior care. I'm kind of a happy-go-lucky, goofy individual, as Chris can attest to. And
check.
And, while you're doing a great service and it's very important, your clients are dying on you at the end of the day. And I wanted something different.
Doesn't go with the handlebar mustache.
No.
That's right. For those on the podcast who can't see that, yeah, Roger, I'm a goofy, happy-go-lucky guy, as Chris can attest, with his handlebar mustache, which is new. That's a new feature.
That is a new feature.
Yeah, I was like, yes, he's definitely ramped it up. But you're right. So you think about it, you're like, oh God, I could mint money taking care of people who are about to die. Yeah, that's great. How are you going to feel about yourself every day? I don't know. And that's, mortuary science and all these people who do this. One of my best friends when I played softball in college, I came home for the summers and worked and played softball. Great friend. We used to get hammered together. This is back when 21 was just kind of a general idea of when you could start drinking. What was he? Mortuary science. And what was he? He was a mortician. He actually ran the funeral home. And he kind of said that until I had to go to somebody locally. Their father died, and I went to the funeral, and he was there, and it was his company. I'm like, dude, you're in a suit, and you're not smiling. He goes, I can't smile here. I'll see you tonight.
Yeah, the old people are dying to get in here.
Yeah, but it bleeds into your personal life. I mean, he was able to compartmentalize. I just don't know how you do that. All right, so that was the first one he was showing.
I got to interrupt because you and I both lost a parent this last year, and the same funeral home took care of both of my folks, and they're 13 years apart, and it was the same guy, and we just love this guy. I mean, I'm so thankful for this guy being a mortician. And at one point I told him, because we're actually laughing on the phone together, I'm like, I gotta tell you, I mean, in a weird way, you're making this process enjoyable. And he goes, I do put the fun in funerals.
Oh my God. Oh no, there's a billboard.
Right.
Let's put the fun in funerals. In fact, I think that's what I want my funerals to be. Yeah.
No, the dude was awesome. I mean, I'm glad he didn't make it feel like it was a business transaction.
That's cool.
Can you imagine franchising in funerals?
Oh my God. Well, the consolidations happened huge. I mean, I know there's big money in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
As Roger said, people are dying to get into it. But they're buying up all the local funeral homes. It's a big business. But we
digress.
But we digress into, this is not a funeral home podcast. This is not about death. This is about growth.
No, it does seem to be a little bit about alcohol. And that's what introduced me to the second recruiter.
Let's go.
Wow, nice segue.
Thank you. So I was at a Shabbat dinner, a Friday night dinner. And it was with 4 other families, and all the guys were in the kitchen, and they all said, well, do you want to have a pre-Shabbos scotch? And they were all like, yeah.
Can I back you up?
Sure.
Shabbat
is Friday night to Saturday night. It's the Hebrew or the Jewish Sabbath.
So this is every Friday night.
Yes.
Oh, this is not a special event.
No, this is every Friday night. Every Friday night is actually the Sabbath, and it's actually considered one of the most holy days in the religion.
And you have a dinner?
Yeah, you have yes. You have dinner, light candles, say the Kiddush, say a blessing over the bread, and then you have dinner.
All right,
your friends.
But let's back that up. You get to drink first. Let's go.
You get to drink first.
Let's get back to alcohol.
I need to go to a Shabbat.
I do every night.
So, of course, I said, yeah, I'll have a pre-Shabbat scotch. And then about 4 seconds later, I went, I've never really had scotch, and I don't really know how to drink it. And that was my original foray about 14 years ago into the scotch, and then that transferred into bourbon.
So you got the hang of it pretty well.
I did. I was able to almost earn a degree and get a master's and a PhD.
There's a hang in that.
So anyway, you were
actually after it.
This was transitioning into your second.
So I met another recruit. So one of the individuals introduced me to another recruiter who I met on Monday afternoon. He was showing me a bunch of things in his little pitch book, and college hunks kind of jumped off the page. The first one was a shredding company. The trucks for a shredding company were $250,000.
Good Lord.
So the initial investment was pretty high.
I was like, turn the page and turn it quickly. And then there was another company that would be competing with two of my buddies who live here in Georgia. And I went, there's so many companies out there. I don't need to buy one just to go into competition with some friends.
So he wouldn't join the Live Tour.
Right.
Not join the Live Tour?
Yeah.
You mean, let's go back a number of episodes. You don't think he'd start the More Trusted Toolbox? Asshole.
Man, I tell you.
Don't worry, I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, apparently.
Huh?
Let things go, Chris.
It's okay.
A little tense. You need another counseling appointment.
The Don is out here.
And then college hunks was the next one he showed me. And
sorry.
And it somewhat jumped off the page. The next day I was on the phone with their internal recruiter. And the day after that, in the franchising world, as you know, you start making validation calls. I was making validation calls.
So you called a bunch of Z's.
Except for there weren't that many.
No, there was only about 15 at the time.
You had 15 Z's when you first started at the college hunks, rolling junk, and moving.
And that's an interesting little nuance in franchising, because you can go in, you can buy a McDonald's or a Subway, and there's almost every territory in the world is taken, and then there's other franchises where it's just getting off the ground, and that's a big decision.
If you can fog a mirror, they'll sell you a franchise when they're brand new.
Right.
And that's how it felt in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you get on the phone with these guys, and you call the Z's, and the Z's again. There's a third.
Nobody was making money yet, but everybody. It was almost like a cult that was a little scary because there wasn't a bad thing to be said, and the culture was so strong. And
so you turn to your wife and you're like, "Hey, honey, I want to do this. Nobody's making money yet, but I really got a."
I may have left that part out.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute. I left that. All right. Because we want the hunks to sponsor us, Alan.
Yeah.
So let's go back to that for a minute. So amazing culture, loved everybody. Let's skip over the details of nobody's making any fucking money. Don't worry about that, baby.
People are now.
I know they are. I know. So this is. Did you actually talk to the owners of the company at the time?
Yes. So I went down to Discovery Day and met with the owners, and actually handed them a check while I was down there.
Wow.
Fully interned to get involved and join in.
All right. So that's a big deal, right? You went in, and when we say a check, this isn't like a $1,000, hey, I'm about to get interested.
That's the real money.
$50,000 check.
So that's a 5 in front of the 0,
which is not an uncommon number in buying a franchise,
right? And he did it that day. I don't think people can fully appreciate the magnitude of that. I mean, that's $50,000. I don't know about you, but that's real money.
And it's kind of blue sky money in your mind when you're looking at your business plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so you gave him that $50,000. But what you don't know is he said, "I'm happy-go-lucky guy." But what I also know is he's a very sharp businessman and a great leader too. Not to give you too many props because I'll bring it down later. No, I'm kidding. But you wrote that check that day, so you clearly had done a lot of research before then.
Yes.
So tell us why you did all that research, or how you did that research, and why you said 50,000 that day. Yes, I'm doing it.
Do you have what it takes to start your own business? Are you tired of the 9-to-5 corporate job and ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship? You need to check out From the Zoo to the Wild, the book by successful entrepreneur Chris Lalvani. This book is a unique perspective on the journey into the wild world of home services and delivering excellence in service while working in customers' homes. Lalvani shares his path to success in this industry, including proven customer relationship strategies, award-winning customer experience processes, and a unique approach to training a team of service technicians to perform at the highest levels. Whether you're a small business trying to scale or a franchise operation, From the Zoo to the Wild will give you the mindset, habits, leadership style, and customer-oriented processes to succeed as a small business owner in the world of home services. So if you're ready to take control of your future, get a copy of From the Zoo to the Wild today, available on Amazon.
Well, a lot of it was the combination of researching the other companies that I had already researched. So I was like a professional franchise investigator at that point. And then knew the questions to ask, knew how to get in touch with the franchisees because I had previously been a recruiter. So smiling and dialing was not a challenge for me. And having the conversations on the phone was pretty easy, and asking the questions and really understanding where they were going and buying into their vision of how they were going to be a massive company, which, I mean, we have 215 franchises now across the country.
That's 215 versus 14 when you first started.
Correct.
You were at number 15. So I think the gold nugget I took away from that is you didn't just research within the industry. You researched around the industry of other things to see if this is going to be a good fit. Because as we all know, franchisors, there's some really shitty ones out there, and there's some really good ones. But you didn't dive into the industry vertical. You went across the board. I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know if I would have played that.
Well, and it's also another thing to point out, when you only have 15 franchisees, the franchisor doesn't have a lot of capital to work with. So the services that they can provide that you're, paying with your royalties are kind of limited at that point. I mean, you really were taking a flyer.
Yes. Helping, basically, I was one of the pioneers to help build the organization that we have now.
So you get a special table at the annual meeting. Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
Oh, he gets a special table
That's
now.
right.
I was going to say, the definition of pioneer?
What's that?
You're the one who takes the arrows in the back.
Nice.
Yeah, well, you did it though. And you're up. I'm still standing.
We were not a moving company at that point. We were only junk removal.
Right. I remember.
And, and we, we modeled after the 800-pound gorilla, which was 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And I mean, they had 600 franchises. So they're not exactly a small organization. They started in Canada.
Right.
I believe in Toronto.
Toronto, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about I think this is the elephant in the room. The name of the company, it creates an image in your mind of who's going to show up and haul the junk. The college hunk. I mean, what's the history of that? And do you have to kind of hire somebody to fit that? In other words, could Chris and I come haul junk for you?
Yes, but the challenge would be that you have to work.
Oh,
okay. So I'm not sure that Chris would fit in.
I have a bad back, and I like to tell everybody else what to do.
Right. So
he doesn't get along well with others either.
HUNKS is an acronym. HUNKS is an honest, uniformed, nice, knowledgeable service. But it was started by two high school buddies who, between their junior and senior year of college, borrowed their mom's beat up moving van, threw out a bunch of flyers, came up with a fun name that one of their moms kind of introduced and was throwing out while they were sitting around the pool one night drinking some beer. And they started a business. And that fall, the one who went to the University of Miami submitted a business plan, won first place out of 150 people, won $10,000, which I would love to tell you they used to start the company, but
more beer.
He was a senior in college at the University of Miami.
Yeah.
He had 10 grand in his pocket. That's a lot of fun. So they went on to corporate America. They're both pretty miserable. They started emailing back and forth. When
really?
Yeah.
So they did not take that business plan and put it in action. They did
not immediately.
10,000.
About 2 years later, they did.
Okay. All right.
When you want to put this business plan into play, let's do it right now. And they dove in, and they started in Washington, D.C., which is one of our flagship locations. And they, about 2 years later, they started franchising.
Wow.
And they were both very young. I mean, they were both on the 30 under 30 list for Inc. and Entrepreneur. And they were young, ambitious individuals. So part of the downside or part of the upside, depending on how you look at it, from having some corporate experiences, they didn't really have the experience. I like to say, when I was in the restaurant business, I remember getting pulled in the walk-in cooler in the wet box by my general manager and get my face ripped off. I mean, just getting absolutely berated for doing something stupid. They never had those experiences. They never had to deal with some of those things when you.
So they didn't have life beat them down.
Right.
To tell them that their optimism was completely unfounded and that you are unrealistic, and you get your ass back down in that cubicle and you give me that TPS report by Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice pull.
Thank you.
You know,
So,
the bad email that your boss pulls you into his office and is like, "What are you doing? How dumb are you?" They didn't have those experiences.
27. Go ahead. Keep going. I had that was 27. That's how old I was when that first happened. I have a lot of but by the way, I well, clearly we've talked about it. If you listen to the podcast much, my history of bad decisions and bad
It's
reactions.
pretty epic.
It is epic.
Yeah.
But yes, I've been pulled in for that one. So these guys did that. Isn't that so interesting? Because I talk about this a lot. I think you have to, for me, it was a very thoughtful process for me to start my business. And I felt like I had built my toolbox up. Pun intended.
Okay.
I did, pun intended, because the trusted toolbox is my toolbox. But
a more trusted toolbox
would suck. I'm going to take you down because you would never go into competition to get your friend. If you know another friend in the room, Alan, oh my God.
They offered me $200 million to play on the Live Tour.
Then I would say go with it.
Yeah.
Can you take me with you? I'll be your caddy.
Okay.
Right. 10%.
I'll take it. I'll take all 10%. But when you think about it, you're building up your skill set. Do you have the skills to do it? I mean, will you be successful? Because we don't know. Because again, 9 out of 10 businesses fail, everybody, right? 9 out of 10, not 4, not 5, 9.
Yeah, but that goes down pretty significantly in the franchise world, or at least with the established franchise. I mean, you're an emerging franchise. I think until about 75 locations is 75 to 100, and then you become more mature.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain little benchmarks that you'll see in different franchise organizations, because the person typically to lead you from 0 to 75 or 100 may not be the same leader who can lead you from 100 franchises to 1,000, and then like in the McDonald's Subway world from 1,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
You know,
what are some of the differences you see in your franchisor and the support and the quality of the talent they have today versus when you started?
Well, when I started, there was 2 people in the call center. I knew both their names. So now there's 150 reps in the call center. Wow. Just in and of itself. There was
holy cow.
There was 3 people on the executive team. There was the 2 founders, Nick and Omar, and one of my good friends, Stephen Nichols, who's now also a franchisee up in Long Island. And that was it. So, you know, I had access to the owners. If I had a question, I could pick up the phone and call Nick. And if Nick didn't answer, I could call Omar. And if Omar didn't answer, I could call Stephen. So now you have an entire executive team, you have support, you have all kinds of different departments, you have IT, you have.
All right. So let me ask this question. Warren Buffett says it. I keep saying this because I love this phrase. It's my mantra this year, besides the word finish. Bigger is not better. Better is better. They're bigger now. Are they better now at servicing you and helping you? Because you said Nick and Omar. But today, if I buy into the college hunks, am I calling Nick and Omar?
No, because Nick and Omar have transitioned into the visionary role. Right. So if you're familiar with the traction model at all,
correct,
by Gino Wickman, there's the integrator who's more of like a COO, an operations person, and a visionary who a lot of us entrepreneurs are, where you have 1,000 stupid ideas a day and one of them might stick to the wall. So they're more in that visionary role and not in the day-to-day at all.
All right. So is it better today now that Nick and Omar aren't accessible? Do you feel like?
Well, they're accessible to me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he's at the special table, Chris.
I'm at the special table.
Yeah.
All right. But do you feel like if you were talking to another college hunks potential franchisee,
which he will, I'm sure you take validation calls every
Absolutely.
day. Yeah.
Right. Would you say it's a better transition and operation model today?
Yes. And one of the main reasons is we've built out what the company should be and what it can be. So when I started, the business plan was kind of, you work out of your house. You weren't even allowed to get an office at that point. Now you have to have an office, but you weren't allowed to get an office. You start on the truck. You try and get to $20,000 a month on the truck, and then you buy another truck. And that was the end of the business plan. There wasn't a page 2.
It's pretty simple.
There wasn't a page 2 at that point. And now
there you go. See, that's the definition of a great franchisor versus those shitty ones you hear about.
Yeah.
Because they've gotten better. Because now they have not just page 2, they have not only page 2.
They're actually reinvesting the money.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive.
So you, when you started with these guys, I mean, you named the main player. And at that point, you probably weren't even a blip on their radar.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And now it's Coke versus Pepsi. It's got to be.
We're certainly playing in the same sandbox as them now. And what's interesting is that we started moving about 15 months after I joined. Okay. So in December, and I got my moving license on tax day of 2011. So I still remember that. And I opened my doors in January of 2010. So once we got into moving, and then we became a legitimate moving company, and moving's about 60% of my top line sales now. So, and it's about 50% of maybe a little bit more of the entire company's sales. I think we're going to do somewhere in about the $300 million range this year. And the goal is to hopefully be $1 billion company by, I think, 2025, 2026.
That's overall college hunks.
Overall.
Not you here in
No,
Atlanta.
I mean, it'd be nice.
Right. Well, I'm just.
You were wondering how much you needed to suck up.
I was, because
but
you were a little.
The point is,
but
when you get to those numbers, but again, that was the problem I had when I came from corporate America and SunTrust and doing corporate earnings, talking about millions and billions, down to Chris, that job's $1,000. Okay. Oh, you know what? That's your money. Get that. What the hell? Take that back.
Right.
Put that $5 thing back. No, you're gonna get the $4 thing. So I just want to double check. All right. So back to you. Yeah.
So then our competitor tried to launch a moving business after about 5 or 6 years. Got junk, launched a business called You Move Me, and it kind of fell on its face because one of the beauties of their name is their name.
Right.
I mean, it's a
Very
great
branded.
It's a very branded name and great, but You Move Me is not. And now
that sounds weird.
Two Men in a Truck now has junk removal. They just
really?
started it about a year and a half ago.
All right,
so
here, quick interesting thing is, again, back to there's plenty of other business you can get into. I can't tell you how many different junk removal companies that I've seen while I'm on the road. I'm back out training a couple estimators this spring. I've been driving around. I'm like, where'd this guy come from? Where'd this guy come from? Oh my God. Oh my God. You know, there's always going to be the smaller players. There's plenty to go around for all of us. And I think, again, if the professionalism rises in our business, home services, across the board, we all benefit from it. And so again, as business owners, we want to win, but as home service providers in a local market, it's okay. I'm good. I actually told somebody, I'm like, I don't think I have any competition. And the guy went, well, I have your competition come out tomorrow. I'm like, good.
right.
So you do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So as we continue on the evolution of where you've been, so we started in 11. Here we are in 23. Today, your hunks and your junk removal and moving business.
Yes.
In your moving business, as you've scaled your business, that's the big thing. Did you think your franchisor helped you scale, or was that you how you work your business?
I think it was the people. There was a group of franchisees that kind of started after me, and I might be the earliest one, who were, let me say this politically correct, balls to the wall. Let's go. And
again, balls to the wall. Totally correct, because it's a military reference and it's not what you think. It's called, when you were a pilot in World War I, you had to put your balls to the wall. You had to put your throttle to the maxed it out to launch. So you're fair. So just for the record, he did not swear yet.
Not yet.
I
believe I have sworn at this point, though.
At this point, I think this is a fucking record. Me talking about him. But anyway, all right, keep going. So
we were of the mindset of, it's amazing what happens, how those things just get empty, huh?
I was looking at the bottom of my glass.
Alan needs more drinks.
So we were of the ilk of let's just buy trucks and hire hunks and keep going. And if you wheels moving, wheels rolling, if you build it, they will come, and let's get more trucks on the road and more people and keep growing, and the business will come. And you know, it wasn't just me. There were some other locations as well. I'm in a mastermind group with, 5 of the top 8 performing locations in the entire system. And we've been in the same group together now for, I guess, probably 10, 11 years.
You guys meet virtually, or have you ever gotten together personally?
No, we get together, and it's evolved to, we're more than just business meetings now. So our last one was a week in Puerto Rico, where we were at a nice Airbnb. And yes, we're definitely doing business, but we're also having fun, and we make family meals. And I mean, we're all of our families are so tight.
That's a huge point, because as we've done this podcast, we've been doing this for a year and a half. Hopefully you've been listening, but I would tell you the people have been reaching out to me lately have been, hey, Chris, can I be part of your mastermind group? I'm like, well, it's here locally in Atlanta, because I'm a big proponent of this. When you're an entrepreneur and you're running your own business, I don't care if you're in a franchise system or not, you're alone. It's very lonely. And you need somebody else to talk to who thinks like you, because your employees, of course, think if you're bringing in $5 million, you're collecting, well, the studies say you're collecting exactly 47% of that. So
but your employees think that you're collecting $5 million. Your employees think that you have $5 million in the bank because you did.
The studies say no, not all $5 million. They're not completely irrational. They think you're getting $2.5 million.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's not so bad. But as we all know, it's a very low net business that we're in. So you can't share with other people. And the best definition I've ever heard is, when's the first day you started lying to your wife? The day I started my business. You bet. Because, hey, baby, were you making money? Oh, yeah. Every day. Hey, how was your day? Good.
Great.
Good. Great. But it's not, as we all know. So having somebody you can knock this off of. And we've also talked about this, and I'm willing to share it again. I've been to counseling. I've been to therapy for my own self. And this is a lot of personal stuff. We call it self-care now. I find that out. There's a definition
You're
for it.
You're doing so well, Chris.
How is that? Right? Self-care.
I'm so proud of you.
I know. I'm doing fucking awesome. But it's been hard for anger management, but different story.
Yeah.
But the mastermind group you just talked about.
Damn it, doll.
When you get into the franchise system, you found and navigated, or maybe you guys even manufactured your own group, mastermind group within it. So don't just join the franchise and go, hey, they're going to give me money, they're going to give me business, they're going to make my business happen. You've made it happen. So talk a little bit about how you got into that mastermind group, and what's that done for you?
I would say it's one of the most valuable things that has happened, because this group of friends and colleagues, we've all pushed each other. And when you can't see your own blind spots, your best friends can. And what's great about a mastermind group is sometimes your best friends will see it, but because you're friends, they won't tell you. But when your best friends are also business owners, they're obligated kind of to tell you, and they're obligated to help you, because that's what our group is. And that's the relationship we've had. And what's great is the franchisor actually is part of our mastermind group, because as we're the largest locations. Okay. And my buddies up in Long Island are the largest location, and they're on our mastermind group. So Steven is one of them. And his husband, Ted, and they're navigating territory that nobody has done in our business. But our franchisor is also navigating new challenges that they've never experienced as we're growing by leaps and bounds. So they're able to share stuff with us in a safe space with franchisees that they know they can feel comfortable and confident that we're not going to, hurt their trust in any way. It's been just a great relationship in that regard.
Yeah, I think so. The franchisee or the franchisor, they can't legislate that, right? I don't think.
They usually try to.
Myself.
No, they'll try to build those.
They try and build them, right?
Yeah.
To Alan's point, they'll try and build them, and they'll try and moderate them as well, and kind of steer them a little bit. Hopefully, the mastermind group can become as independent. And ours is, we get people coming and asking to join ours.
Yeah,
and it's distressing that you can't. I mean, I think the last person to joined over 5 or 6 years ago. It's hard to break into our circle of trust.
Yeah. So I'm in a great mastermind group here locally, and we're not all the same. I'm a handyman and remodeler, and there's nobody else like me in the group, but there's some home services people. There's some insurance people, but it's funny how you start to share the same stories, but what's fun, the best fun is that when somebody puts themselves in the hot box, again, back to, you can only do this with your best friends. Here's my issue. And you just pound them. And we were pounding him about his issue. You're like, shit, I have the same problem.
God damn it, there's a mirror in front of me again.
I hate that again. So I put myself in that box 2 months ago. You'll love this too. And I didn't mean to, but I did because I have a big problem I was trying to work through. And they put me in there. And I'm telling you, man, I had one guy, literally, the question was, well, why don't you disclose your business?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I wanted to come across the table and say, fuck you. And I was about to kill him. I mean, that's how mad I was.
Did he have a little twinkle in his eye when he said that?
No, but he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what he was saying basically to me was, you're going to get up and fight, or you're going to sit there and lay on the canvas.
So he did have a twinkle in his eye.
He did. He knew what he was doing. Looking back on it, but he got me. And because I think so much of him and I put so much personal power in him, he did that. And I was like, by God, I'm going to figure out this problem and you're going to solve this problem. And then he was like, okay, all right. And so then they all started giving me really good advice and I executed on it. And they were right. The collective environment was way better and way smarter than I am.
And I think that's the beauty of it. The beauty is that at the end of it, you know, while you were ready to come off the table and rip his fucking head off.
I was too.
You know,
that's his
I'm not
normal
gonna lie.
reaction to everything. I mean,
Well, I understand.
Would you like a cup of coffee, Chris?
Shut up.
Wrong
answer.
You realize at the end of it that, wow, thank you. And that's so powerful.
Yeah. Actually, I owe him the thank you because what he heard off the bat was probably not thank you.
Because it was a safe space.
The you was the same word.
Yeah. And
the thank was different. It was spelled a little differently.
The problem was
close.
especially in corporate America.
Ended with a K.
You know, it's not that you're a physical imposing guy, but again, you guys don't know that you can't see this on the podcast. The three of us sitting around the room. I mean, I think I'm the shortest one at 6'2". And the guy who was calling me on this was like 5'9".
Oh,
and
you wanted to squeeze his head off.
It wasn't a size thing. It do nothing about it. But I was ready to flip a table and come flying across that room. And I realized that I had that anger look on me. And I realized I'm a pretty bigger guy, you know, and I could be pretty. It's so the next day I went, oh, should I apologize? But again, with best friend, you don't have to.
Right.
Right.
And he was doing it
like
leading with love.
He did.
And that's what's so valuable.
I tell you what, he probably doesn't even think at this point we had a problem. Or it's a problem that's going to linger because when he sees me next month, he's going to be like, you know, big hug. How's it going? Great. And if I even say the word I apologize, well, of course.
Right.
But
what are you apologizing for? I was helping you.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. This is what we do.
Right.
This is what we do as brothers. This is what we do is trying to get your business. It's so hard to scale. And so you've done it. And I know you wanted to get into a point, but I'm going to start.
That's all right.
You're out.
Yeah.
So I watched you scale.
I'll just sit here and drink
whiskey.
whiskey.
You did the guerrilla marketing. You guys went after it. You went after the big behemoth, but you realize now it's a fragmented space of people just picking up shit and doing things and pulling away. And but as you grew today, you started with you and how many people, and now where are you now? This many years later.
So it was me and two hunks when I first started. And then about 3 months later, 4 months later, we added a third, which was a big deal. I would say one of the biggest challenges I had was the first one was allowing one of my other guys to drive the truck. Okay.
Oh, so you were just giving up everything slowly.
Oh, I was awful at it. And then the second big step was allowing them to go out and represent the business without me being there and realizing
that's terrifying, isn't it?
It was beyond terrifying. It was so stressful and realizing that they were doing it the right way. And part of that, I truly think comes from, you know, the culture and the leadership, you know, but you still putting a lot of trust in people. And now I think we have about 75 employees now. We have 24 or 25 vehicles rolling around Atlanta. Probably need another 50 employees. So if you're listening and you're looking for a job this summer, probably need another 50 employees to get through this summer.
Definitely not our audience. However,
right. So summer's a peak time for you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, more people will put their houses on the market because you want to be settled
on the
for the
moving
school.
side.
You want to be settled for the school year.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have school age children, you know that more people are looking at the housing market when other people are looking. So it behooves you to put it on the market as well.
There's a huge difference between your two businesses, though. So do they kind of operate out of the same core team, or do you have two completely different divisions? Because when I think about, like, for example, I may need to use you. I've got a hot tub that needs to be hauled away. And that's a pretty simple transaction. But then moving, like if I were going to move, I'm assuming you're talking about a full pack and all that. That's that's the stuff. So in other words, one of your businesses is stuff I don't care about, and the other business is stuff I do care about.
Yeah, but besides your broken hot tub, let's say you have that old desk that you want to donate. You don't just want it thrown into the dump. We donate or recycle about 70% of everything we touch. So if we can find a home for it, we do. And I have a couple of hybrid employees who can do both, who can work both on the junk removal side and the moving side. But and they're very complementary businesses, because as you know, as a realtor, you have to declutter your home before you can list it or even start showing it.
So I'm in commertional, but I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you slighted there?
A little bit.
I hear you.
He didn't look at my card.
You did. You tweaked. You tweaked a little bit. I saw you.
I was about to bow up and throw. I was going to flip
about
the
to
table,
blow up.
just like Chris. I wanted to be like Chris for a second.
For the record,
I love
where
it.
on this card does it say commercial? Because I'm looking and I'm reading the card and I'm just checking to see if it says
all right
commercial.
It does.
Let me see. Wait, hang on.
Keller Williams.
What bullshit? I want big
Keller
commercial.
Williams.
All right, back to you.
Give you an old card.
Hey,
Oh,
Keller Williams. We have
know what?
branding opportunities.
Wow.
Here at
Alan,
the
I just got called out.
Alan, you can give me your apology in writing after the podcast ends.
He'll have his lawyer approve that, because we had Mitch on before you.
That's right.
That was last week's episode.
My attorney's going to write a letter to you.
All right. We got a little off the rails there. Let's get back to what's really cool, because he said, I started with me and two hunks. And when he says me and two hunks, who was driving that truck?
Me.
Who was picking up shit?
I actually was back then.
Yes, you were.
There ain't no picking up anymore.
Right. I know you're not now. So now you've done it. So it scaled perfectly, right? You gotten from 0 to 75. You put the right people in place. You made every right move, and everything happened just right. And you've moved everything, and you never had to go back and revert and bring other people out, right? This is sarcasm, by the way, everybody, and doesn't play well over podcasts. However, it didn't happen like that, did it?
It's not linear growth.
Exactly.
However, until 2022, I had positive growth every single year I was in business.
What was the hardest part of your growth? People, training, process, eat sometimes the shit sandwich?
I think it was allowing some of our service standards to get sacrificed. I'm a huge fan of customer service, and it's so important. Because I think that's what allows you to refer your friends, is if you get treated well. Even if you go to a restaurant and you have amazing service, the food doesn't have to be great.
Yeah, you're right about that.
You're going back because you want your friends to enjoy this with you. This server was so great and made you guys feel like champions. The food was all right, but you're going back.
So going back to your original statement, are you saying in order to scale, you had to sacrifice some of that?
I think it got sacrificed at times, because whether it was you just needed people. I mean, there was times when you just needed, the business was there and you had the bandwidth to do it, and you needed people, and you didn't train them as well as you should.
All right, let me double down on that. He's not willing to say it. I'll say it because I did it. I told you when I first started my business, I would do anything to anybody at any time.
We've established the fact over 85 podcasts, you're a big whore.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
But when you scale and you start doing it, you're like, you know what? Screw that person. That wasn't the problem. They're the problem. I'm not the problem. My company was great. And that's the hard part, because you do that. You get that blind spot. You start to think that, hey, maybe that wasn't me. I had a great phrase, actually, completely 100% shoved into my face. Guy says, Chris, I want you to come out here and see what you guys did. I'm like, okay. He goes, Chris, I am the general manager of a Lexus dealer. And sometimes what I've been told is I have to come out there and kick the tires. This is how we started, by the way. This is before we looked at any of the work my guys did. He said, and I want you to come out here and kick the tires with me and let me know if this is how your company works. And I walked out back, and it was abhorrent. It was the worst work I've seen. It looked like a 3-year-old had done this shit. I mean, I couldn't have gnawed it with my teeth.
You're making me sick to the stomach.
It was. I was sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh my God.
They used paste? We don't even use paste. We now use glue.
I'm like, it would have been easier to use a saw versus what he had done. And I'm like, oh my God. He goes, I just want you to see what your guys have done. And I had no words, right? He's right. He said, you know, Chris, I've been in the car industry for 35 years. And every once in a while, I'm the general manager now. You have to go out there and kick the tires. He goes, I just wanted you to come out here and kick the tires with me. I said, I understand, and I will make this happen. He goes, I know you would. He goes, that's why I hired you.
That dude is cool.
That guy was cool. He is super cool, I have to say. Now, I got in the car. I was calling my uncle, Tony. I was going to take somebody out.
That's right.
He was going to be
we were ready to slash some tires.
He was going down. He wasn't going to live again.
All those tires were going to be flat when you went to go kick them.
Yeah, you're going to kick tires. You're at that. You know what? You said Lennon. You said Lennon. I can't say the word over. You said Lexus dealer. I'm going to find that. I'm going to blow it up. You're going to die. And by the way, the guy that did that work is fired. So what did I do first? On the way back, I said to my operations manager, I said, this guy is coming in the office tomorrow. Because that's enough. I'm done. But was that the first time you've heard that he had substandard work, or was that the first time it was actually shown to you and you actually decided to look?
Look who's running the podcast now.
Whoa!
Nice
hey,
job.
Whose podcast is this? Who brought this fucker on? You know what? This is why I love this guy, because he. You're right. I had heard it and I ignored it. And you know what? When it was in your face and it's visceral, it's very difficult to ignore. And so that's the big thing I think we both would say is every once in a while you have to go out there and kick the tires. You're going to have to go back out there. I don't care if it's the CEO of Disney. I'm listening to the Iger thing again. And I go back.
I kind of got a little man love for him.
I do. I love Disney, except the people who go there. I mean, if I can go to the Disney parks and go to the
have it by yourself,
it's all the other people. But yeah. I'm a huge Disney. I'm a Disney file. I'm not going to lie. I study that stuff. I love it because I think it's a huge customer service model.
Absolutely.
We should all have.
My favorite Disney story, if we can sidetrack,
launch it,
is before they opened Disney World in Florida. They were deciding how far to put garbage cans away from each other. And what they did is they handed every single guest as they were walking into Walt Disneyland in California a piece of candy that was wrapped in a wrapper. And they followed people and tracked them for how long they would hold on to that piece of paper before they would drop it on the ground. You will find a garbage can every 27 feet in Walt Disney World. That unbelievable.
I love this story. I mean, everything about them is so big. And the reason I'm so in love with them is that, well, of course, as a kid growing up, we had every Sunday night. That's all we could watch. I mean, I'm going to age us all because we're all in that same age group. Wild World of Disney. We didn't have Sunday Night Football.
Tinkerbell would come on with her little "When You"
and you start watching.
How'd that go? How'd that go again?
When you wish upon a star.
Did we? Hopefully, you harmonize. Hey, we got something here. But when you think about what they've done, how they do it, it's amazing. I remember back when I was at Accenture. My first time leading a team. So I was 28 years old, first time leading a corporate team, quote unquote. And I had three of them. And she was 24. She was an analyst. She had gone through the Disney Institute. And I said, all right, every Monday, once a month, you have to come in and present to us what you've learned over your life that you think that we can all take. And to this day, I still remember this. She was at Disney. She was at Dream, Believe, Do. And she brought that book in and she presented it to all of us. So to this day, I still remember that. And now that's part of our remodeling process. When I come into you to talk to you about your bathroom or your kitchen, what do you want? And Roger can attest to this because him and his wife brought me in and they're like, oh, it's just a hall bath. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? What do you want?
What would be ideal? What, like, if you could have a magic wand?
I kept saying, if you, what did you, I said, forget money. Just tell me what you want. Because if I can dream with you, then let's believe it. And then we'll figure out what we can do with this, which will be in your budget. And it was so hard for me to do that I couldn't. I had to refer him to a designer, but I figured it out. And that's what we do. And that comes from Disney, but it's all about that customer service mindset. It's hard, but it is paramount. Because if you're not in that business, and even if you think you're B2B, you're still in that customer service mindset, right?
You used a big word there.
I did. Which one?
Paramount.
10-cent word.
Nice job.
It was just, he got there from Disney. It's another film company. It was just 20. He might send 20th Century Fox on the next one.
Oh, we just short circuited my. He must know I'm an engineer, that I don't even know those big words. Yeah. Dude, this has been awesome. So, Roger, looking back on the college hunks journey, what's been the most fun you've ever had in your company? I mean, period, time, whatever. Maybe day.
I think the most fun that I have is now when we go to our annual convention, and part of the fun that we get to have with our name, it's our reunion. It's not our convention. So it's our reunion. You know, the whole college thing is now going and seeing all my friends that I've been friends with for 13 years. And getting to hang out with them and swap the same silly war stories that we've been telling each other for year after year. So to me, it's the relationships that I've been able to build. I would say some of the highlights are seeing the successes of some of the people that have worked for me. And I've always said it, like, I still do our orientation for all of our brand new employees. I do our orientation because I want to make sure they hear the vision from me.
That's right.
They hear what our standards are from me. I don't have much day-to-day contact with them after that. I mean, I say hi, but I'm more of a cheerleader after that than anything else. But when I can come back, when somebody can come back to me 5 years later, 8 years later, 10 years later, and thank me for something that I don't even remember the conversation, but it stuck out to them, that has a lot of impact for me.
That's very fulfilling. That is something, again, back to I have a Disney love and Bob Iger. Bob Iger doesn't do that. You know that. But you and I know we do that. And that's the part that's so cool. And Ellen can attest to this, is that as a small business owner, you can scale. You want to be a billionaire titan? Good job, man. Way to go. But you know what? Being able to do that and have somebody come back to you 5 years later and say, I remember when you told me that, and here's what I did. Isn't that cool?
It's great. I mean, I still have people who call me coach because they called me their head coach at a point when I was in the business. So they still call me coach.
And that's the best.
Do you remember the moment that you went from, I hope this is going to work, I wonder if this is going to work, to this is actually working? I've got something.
I think it may have, I don't remember the moment per se, but I remember the moment may have been, you know, that first year when we did $1.1 million, when we finally broke $1 million in sales. And then realizing a few years later that we had done $1 million in a quarter and was like, holy shit. Like, do you remember when we used to we were watching the sales thing every single day, wondering if we could get here. And now we're doing more. We've done more in a week than I did my entire first year in business. Like it's just mind boggling.
Come on. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is a really cool thing, because you're so scared when you first start and you're wondering if, you know, that 50 grand and the fact you lied to your wife and all that stuff, you know, is this going to...
For the record, I have yet to say that. You have both said I've yet to say that I've lied to my wife. And she is an attorney and a representative.
Come on.
All right. So
I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying I haven't said it.
I know she's a lawyer, and I know she is. Dude, she's a beautiful woman. I actually I can't see anything.
She's
better
an
than
elected
way
official.
out kicked my coverage.
Yeah, you did.
No gray area there.
Yeah. You did, by the way, 100%. So I'm going to say,
Thanks.
yes, you lied.
But I used to drive my truck. When I first had that junk truck, I used to drive it everywhere. Like if we needed flour from Kroger, I would take the junk truck because it needed to be on the road.
Right.
Okay.
It's branding, baby.
I would pick up my
Branding.
kids from carpool in the junk truck.
I did the same thing. I used to tell my kids it was the big rig. You should be proud. They used to run out in carpool. And that was
Crying.
at a private school. No, because
My kids were crying.
It's like Arrested Development, the ladder truck.
Yes.
That was the ladder truck. But I convinced my kids it was the best thing. They came out with such pride when I'd show up in my my F-150.
Was it a dually?
No, I had the E-250. I'm sorry. So it was the van, and we go 3 wide across the front. And I told them, I'm like, hey, you know what? This just shows the kids that we are somebody, and they loved it. Now none of them wants to be in my business. But
so what's interesting is I have the opposite, because my daughter would cry when I would make her get in the truck or make her ride in the minivan that was branded and wrapped. But now, can I have another sweatshirt? Can I have another shirt? Can I have another sweatshirt?
Right.
All my friends want a shirt. Can you get them a shirt?
You know, you never offered me a shirt, but you know what? We'll swap shirts because Trust Toolbox, baby. We're going worldwide. Mr. 305 going worldwide. No, I'm kidding.
Prestige worldwide.
I love that. All right, Roger, this has been amazing. I think if you haven't listened to this episode again, I keep saying this, but I listen to this guy, and I've enjoyed talking to him over the years. I'm not part of his inner circle because I'm not in his franchise. However, I feel like I'm in his inner circle because I know I can pick up the phone anytime I want, call him, and he will call back. Maybe I don't get him right away, but it will get answers. And we answer each other, and that's called finding your network. Finding your network becomes finding your net worth. And then finding your net worth means you find something that's beautiful. And it's not about money, right? A lot of times, I don't know if you caught this. Here's what Roger just said. It wasn't, hey, man, I made $1 million. No, it was when the guy came back to me and said, I remember when you said this. That's how memories are made. That's how you're going to be rewarded. That's how you're going to be remembered. That's the big thing that we all have to realize. That's awesome.
But I would take that one step further if I can. And I would say that those phone conversations that we've had, when it might start with, hey, I have a question for you. We'll talk for 45 minutes because we'll bounce stuff off each other. And hey, I'm having an issue with this. And it didn't start by me going, oh, you know what? I should call Chris for advice on this. Or maybe Chris needs my insight on this. No, it started with something benign and simple like, hey, my ceiling fan isn't working. What do I do? And 45 minutes later, we're once again changing the world and redesigning our businesses. And that, to me, is the beauty of the networking and the entrepreneurship that we all share.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's awesome. I can't say enough about that. It's so important because you just brought that up, and that actually I'm tearing up a little bit because you're right. I love every time I call you, we get on the phone, and it's never a quick conversation. And next thing you know, we're talking about kids, we're talking about life, and we're talking about the next question I'm going to ask him because I'm going to supersede and then go back to. I got to know because this is the best. All right, 4 questions. We're going to go back to my original question.
Like at the end of Passover. This is great. The 4 questions are a big thing during Passover.
Okay.
We always ask the 4 questions.
See, if you'd gone to Passover, Chris, you'd know this.
Well, I've never been invited. You know what? I would go. I'm a Catholic guy, but I'm all in. We're just one guy off. I do that with him all the time. All right. Hey, don't get offended. If you're getting offended, this is not your show, right? We got a lot more shit.
Absolutely.
That is the most full I've ever been. Was after Passover dinner. Oh my God.
Yeah. All right.
Unbelievable.
And we drink 4 glasses of wine during dinner.
Just to get started.
4 glasses.
It's mandatory. The 4 are mandatory.
Hey,
yeah.
That's just getting warmed up.
Yep.
Hey, count me in. I'm coming back. All right, here we go. Number 1, what's the favorite feature of your house?
I would say the favorite feature of my house is my house that's up in the mountains, our lake house, and it's our deck.
Wow. All right. Why?
Yeah.
Because it looks out over the Toccoa River, and it's my favorite place. It has our egg on it. Okay. It has a Komodo Joe on it.
That's what I was looking for.
And it has a shuffleboard table on it that we got off a junk job. Okay. One of those fun little shuffleboard tables.
Nice.
And it's where I smoke my cigars and I drink my bourbon, and I love cooking for everybody up there. So to me,
that's what I was looking for.
That's my happy spot.
What's the best thing you do on the egg?
Lately, so I love making the full meal. Like I can make a good steak and the potatoes and the vegetables all on the egg at the same time. But everybody up there has fallen in love with the way I've been doing wings lately on the egg.
Oh, let's go. All right. I knew egg was coming.
Smoked wings.
All right. You can't see this on the podcast, but you will if you watch on the YouTube shorts, because by the way, our YouTube shorts are getting crazy big, because what you would have saw was, oh my God, no, not there. Oh, egg. Okay. Thank God. Because I know he loves to cook, and he is a master chef on the egg. He got in the hospitality business for a reason. He has a passion for food. He understands what food is, and we are foodies.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go. All right. If you wanted to recommend a book to us today, what's a great book we should all read?
Well, let me tweak that a little bit.
Okay, tweak.
Yeah, no. So our audience are people that are thinking about leaving the corporate world, maybe to start their own business.
The Pumpkin Plan by Mike Miscalowicz.
Here we go.
Okay.
That was easy.
Yeah.
So the first book that he wrote was called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're.
Yep. Know what? I am a big. In fact, I follow him. I want him. I'm going to get him on the podcast.
He's great. But the Pumpkin Plan basically talks about not just finding your business, but finding your niche in your business. So instead of being the best dog walker, one of his little vignettes is, why don't you become the best big dog walker? And anybody who has a big dog knows that they have to call you to walk their dog. Okay. And if you have little dogs, no thanks. That's not really my wheelhouse.
It's like super niching.
It's super niching because it talks about those massive pumpkins. The whole mindset is those massive pumpkins that you see at the state fair. They don't just happen. They happen from years of building and buying seeds. One seed can cost over $1,000, and you hope that you get that pumpkin to come out of that one seed, which is just mind-boggling. But the toilet paper entrepreneurs, the mindset of it is, you've all been there. You've all been in the stall, and you reach over and there's one square left. But guess what? You figure it out. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to figure it out.
And with that image, what's our next question?
All
Chris?
right.
Yeah.
To be fair, read it, love it, and
I'm also a big fan of the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Yep, that's
by Patrick Lencioni.
So Michalowicz and Lencioni. Read all of those. That's amazing. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's go back.
Did they do audiobooks on all those, Chris?
No, I actually
Picture books.
I actually read it.
Really? Read the words and everything?
I did. Well, you know what? With AI now, I'm thinking I can say, read this book and then make it a cartoon book so Chris can absorb it. And the shit's going to happen. This AI stuff is crazy. But let's go back to it. All right. The next question, number 2. Nope.
Number 3.
Shit.
Thank you.
And look, you're holding up 3 fingers. It's not,
I was too. Damn it. All right. We are, I've loved bourbon. All right. Customer service freak. We are customer service freaks. What's a customer service pet peeve of yours?
From my business, it's communication and lack of communication.
All right.
When I'm at somewhere else, I hate when there's inattentive
word.
When there's inattentive. So growing up in the restaurant business and starting that and seeing people not paying attention to what's going on and seeing the whole room and seeing everything, like seeing the person standing at the front door. I'm ready to jump out of my booth while I'm sitting there just to go greet them, because I find it so important to everybody wears a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. Every single person. Okay. So when you're Bob Iger at Disney, okay, whether it's your senior VP or the janitor, treat them all the same. They're all wearing that same sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. And so with a little bit with our business, communication to me is so valuable because if we have a 2-hour window, okay, and let's just say hypothetically, Alan, your window is from 12 to 2, and I realize we're not getting to you till 1:30. I'm still within your window, which is fine. But if I can call you at 10:30 and tell you, hey, Alan, by the way, we're not going to be there till 1:30. So if you want to go grab lunch with your friends, if you have some errands to run, whatever the case may be, we're still going to call you when we're 30 minutes away. I've freed up your whole morning.
Mm-hmm.
Your day is now wonderful.
And how hard is that?
It's so easy, and it's so easy to blow off and not do, unfortunately. They can't see you when you nod, by the way. They can't hear you, Chris.
Because I can't tell this any better than the story you guys just said. You guys hit it on the head 100%. I can't even expound on it. It's even better. All right, we're customer service freaks. Here we go.
I just have to say, I had an experience. Do we have time for this?
We do.
So, customer service freaks, big foodies, all of us. My wife, Judy, and I, we decided to go to a restaurant we haven't been to before last night. And it's a place here in Johns Creek. It's been 3 different brands now in the same place. And they've got a rooftop. We're like, I just want to sit on the rooftop. And last night was a nice night. So we go there and we walk up to the front door. And I'm like, I don't even know if it's open. It doesn't look open. And I'm like, it has to be open. It's 6:30 on a Wednesday night. And so I open the door and there's nobody at the host stand. And it's this beautiful restaurant. I mean, it's just really well built out. There is not one table with customers. And finally, I see 2 employees look up, irritated. Finally, one of them walks over, not a smile on their face.
Right. Like you're bothering, you're interrupting their conversation.
I am bothering them. And she walks all the way up. First thing out of her mouth, what would you think it should be?
So sorry it took me so long to get up here.
Yeah.
How can I get you?
Hey, welcome.
Yeah. It's, do you have a reservation? And I almost laughed in her face. And really? Do I need one? There's not one other soul in here. Well, we wanted to go upstairs. And I said, no, we don't have a reservation. Can we, is the upstairs open? She goes, yes, it is. Do you have a reservation? I said, no. And then so she says, well, and she calls the guy on a walkie-talkie.
Did she breathe heavy? Did she go?
Yeah, there was, she never once smiled. It was such a, I am really irritating her look on her face.
I don't think that's a her. I think that's a process.
Well, no, it wasn't a her. It was her. And so I'm thinking, I looked at my wife. I'm like, I'm about ready to just leave, but we really wanted to be upstairs outside on a nice day. And so she walkie-talkies the guy upstairs. Hey, I've got 2 people. Do they have a reservation? She's like, no. And he's like, 1 minute. And so she makes us sit down. And then finally, a couple minutes later, we get to go upstairs. And it's a pretty big space. There's only 3 tables that have somebody there. And this whole time,
out of like 20,
this whole place could easily hold at least 300 people.
Yeah, right.
And it was such a barrier to entry. Now, the funny thing is by the time we ordered, and of course, the first 3 things I ordered on the menu, they didn't have. So I'm like, can you just tell me what you do have? Yeah, I'm just working this, trying to make this thing work out for my wife. And of course, with the 3 tables, they sat us right next to somebody else. Could you not give us a little space? Everything was wrong. But then the food comes out, and it was spectacular. It was spectacular.
All right.
Difference between front of the house and back of the house.
All right.
So
I'm going to short circuit you because we're out of time.
Nah,
Would you go back?
Well, that was a conversation I had with my wife.
Would you go back?
I'm like, I'm not so sure we're coming back to this place.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what? Can I go back to something a little earlier in the podcast? Go back, find the general manager, tell him you need to kick his tires. Tell him the story. Just go, hey, this is my experience.
You made it really hard for me to do.
You made it really hard for me to want to come back here.
Yeah.
The food was next level great. And normally that would bring me back. However, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm really concerned.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
We're
Sorry.
keep moving on. You did.
Thanks for allowing me the time, Chris. I appreciate it.
I did. And in fact, we're way over now.
Yeah. Well,
Let's go.
If we weight the average of words you say versus words I say, I think I got my 5% in.
Don't get your panties in a wad.
Okay.
You're still
They're
here.
a little
You know
wadded.
I
They're
love
always
you.
wadded.
All right. Let's go. DIY nightmare story. We've all done one. We have all screwed up stuff in our house. When
Chris has shot himself in the hand with a nail gun. We determined that
multiple times because it's called my hand clamp. I have watched a house get set on fire. That wasn't me, but I've also flooded the house. That was me. I've done it all. However, I want to know, you just first get married, you tell your loving wife you're going to take care of her, you just absolutely just pound something. It's worst ever. Or you're in a 5-story apartment building and you try to change out your own garbage disposal yourself, and the next thing you know, the water flaps off and it's going down the wall and you can't stop it. So what do you got?
So part of the positives and maybe negatives of, growing up a nice Jewish boy is that we didn't learn how to do a lot of stuff all the time. And I don't know that I have any awful stories. I mean, I remember some frustrating things, like when I built a grill. Like, I can build a grill. I get the box from Home Depot. I can build the charbroil or whatever it is.
You put it together?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
How many extra pieces did you have at the end?
It wasn't that. It was that there was like one thing in step 3 that was wrong. And you have to take apart the entire thing to put it back together, which is a valuable learning tool that the directions actually are beneficial and do work. But as far as we've hired some people, unfortunately, who were not the trusted toolbox.
Ellen.
And we should have hired the more trusted toolbox.
And not as good as me.
And we have ripped out those items and had the trusted toolbox come and fix them.
That is true, by the way.
Oh yeah, multiple truths in that one. So that has happened more times than it should have. And it really goes back, in my opinion, to you really get what you pay for. You really do. And if you want professional work, you have to pay professionals. I'm a believer in that.
And on that note, we need to hit the road. We're out of here because that's the number. Everybody listen to this. It is hard to say it. We've heard so many things over the years on this podcast. If you listen to the episodes, go back. People pay for good work. And if you provide good work, then you get to pay. You get paid for good work. Do the right thing. It's hard. As Michel Delgado said, say it out loud and it will become true. And that's how much you want to get paid. You remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
That was really good. But it's not all about Michel. It's about Roger. This has been amazing. I'm so thrilled that you came in here. Roger, you don't get out there and talk to many people outside of the college hunks world. I'm so glad you came out there and shared with us, because I think a lot of people will pick up what you're putting down and will benefit from what you've done. So thank you for getting out of peddling drugs, and thank you for handling our shit.
And thanks for the whiskey.
Absolutely.
We're out of here.
Cheers, Roger.